Hey, good afternoon, Bandit followers. This is Jared with CNY Bandit. I just got done cleaning up one of these carbon steel pans, this large National. So this is the first larger pan that I've been working on, or will be working on. It's approximately 9 inches across here. And I do have two of the other ones. This one is one that I use regularly, a little 6-inch pan. And I stripped this down about 2 years ago, year and a half ago. Got it seasoned up. I use this in my kitchen all the time for cooking a couple fried eggs and things like that. My wife doesn't use them. She likes her cast iron, but I've been using this one inside. I have another one that matches this that is upstairs, unused in my closet, but it is seasoned and ready for use. This little guy is an unmarked pan that I got with the large one. I got them together as a set. Obviously, you can still see some of the rust in there. I will be redoing this at some point. But just in the last few moments, I took the larger pan, which was rusted, and blackened from some use, old seasoning on it. I stripped it down with some steel wool and a stainless steel scrubby pad from inside. There's probably a little bit of, this is smooth, but it is still, does still have some surface rust on it, which I just noticed. But I left a lot of the old seasoning and carbon buildup on the outside of this pan. I did scrub it down. I neutralized the Barkeeper's Friend with some regular dish detergent. And now I'm going to be starting the grill up to heat this, and then I'm going to be using some cooking oil to season it with. And eventually I'll be doing this over and over and over again until I get the nice darker brown layers of seasoning. I'll probably do 4 to 5 treatments on this. So let's get started. I'm going to pause this video for just a moment, and actually maybe I won't pause it. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. I had to reconnect the igniter on the bottom of the grill, but so we'll get that started up, and I will start heating this pan. And all I'm going to do, let this heat up for just a couple minutes, or a few seconds probably. Actually, it's not going to take very long to get this pan warm to open up some of the pores. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take some of this, well, this just vegetable oil that my vegetable or olive oil, I'm not sure which, but I'm going to let that sit in the pan pretty good. I'll let this coat around, and we want to get this to the smoke point. You pretty much treat this like you would as you're doing cast iron. You're going to be treating it, coating it in the same way. And I've done this before in the oven, in the house, but it does make a pretty good smell and some smoke once it gets to that point. You could let this sit in a oven for X amount of time once you get it coated. And then what I usually like to do, what I did with the small pans, was I let this sit until you saw the oil. I get it fully coated, let it heat up, let it start to darken, and then I would wipe it down. I would reheat it back in the oven or on the burner until you saw the oil start to kind of get some webbing in it. And then I would take the paper towel that was dampened with some of the oil from soaking it up, and I would spread that out. Pretty much once it started to get that webbing in there, you knew that the oil was starting to caramelize and to season. And see, now it's even starting to smoke a little bit, if you can see that. So this is obviously, open flame is getting very hot. I have an electric range inside, which takes a bit longer to do this. Basically, once I get this to start to darken, you can see even starting to yellow on the pan a little bit. So I want to just keep kind of swirling this around and coating it and coating it. So pause the video for a second, and I'll get back to you in just a moment. Okay, there we go. So I just drained off some of that hot oil into another pan. I needed 2 hands to do that. And I lightly wiped it down, so you can see it's shiny. Having the back side, I've coated all this back stuff all with oil. And I'm going to put this back over the fire. The open flame, and hopefully, if you can start to see as I heat this up, you'll start to see what I mean by some of the webbing forming in the oil. It's the oil starting to separate and starting to dry, and you can get the edge of this by kind of evenly rolling this around the flame. And as you do this, this is slowly going to darken these sides. You don't want it to burn. You want to get a nice even coating. And the nice thing about this cold handle pan is it has kind of a hollow handle, and that helps keep the pan cooler the handle cooler so you can still touch it with your bare hand and still use it. So I'm just going to kind of keep going around with this, and you'll see it start to season and darken. And I could always sit this inside the gas grill. Gas grill does have a temperature gauge in the front of it. You could put the grill on low, let it get up to 200-300 degrees. Typically this grill, when you let it sit on low for a while, it heats up 400 or 500 degrees. But again, you can see the oil start to smoke. But at least this way it would get this to where it's baking that oil on. And again, you can see that pan starting to darken, starting to season more. I'm going to try and get closer to the handle here and let this darken a little bit too. Don't want my handle to heat up too much because I don't have gloves on. But we'll let that handle heat up so that can season as well. And now you can really start to see kind of that webbing, as you can start to see that to dry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this pan off to the side. As it's smoking some, I'm going to take my paper towel that's still wet with oil. I'm going to rub this around because I don't want this to get ridges on it. You want this oil coating to stay nice and smooth. So as you start to see that webbing build, take your oil, smooth it around all the way around the pan on the inside. You see that webbing start to smooth out. So just kind of keep doing this, and if you need just a touch more oil in there, that's fine. It will, the oil starts to beat up pretty well off itself, and work this around some more, and you'll keep building layers like this. So that's what we want. So we want to kind of keep going like that. Again, smooth the oil out, and then we'll put it back over the fire, and we'll continue to let this season a little bit more. I'm going to pause again. So I re-smoothed that pan again. I needed 2 hands to do that. So we're going to let this darken a little bit more. We'll work around the edges. And again, you don't want to let this sit too long in one spot. There's lots of videos out there about how to do this. Some people will do it differently, but this is the way I found that works pretty well. I just kind of continue to evenly heat around that whole pan. And if you see something start to darken a little too much, you can kind of lighten up on it. You don't want to warp the metal, but these pans you can use over open fire. You could use them on the stove in your house. But so far I've really, really enjoyed cooking with the smaller 6-inch pan. Again, this is the first larger one that I've been able to acquire that I can start getting some seasoning on and I can use for use. So it's a much lighter option than cast iron, especially if you're going camping or if you are backpacking somewhere for the day. This is probably too big of a pan for me if I was going to go out by myself. This would be something I could maybe take in my vehicle if I was going to go hunting, maybe with my father-in-law. Again, we can start to see that to smoke. We're starting to get that nice light brown layer on there. So again, I want to take my towel that has still a little bit of oil on there. I'm going to gently wipe this down. This does get warm when you're doing this, so don't spend too long with the paper towel. So you can see it's starting to smoke pretty good. Again, we don't want to burn the seasoning on. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to pause again for just a couple minutes and continue to do this. And then I'll come back when I have this maybe a couple layers darker. We want to just continue this process again. You see that webbing start to build. Maybe want to smooth that out. It might have some edges there, but if that gets too much, you could always take some salt, just like you would cast iron, and kind of scrub that down to avoid some of that webbing. It just gives something for your food to kind of stick to if you do have those edges, but you want it as smooth a finish as possible. So I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, back again. So this pan handle started to get pretty warm, so take it in the shade. But again, it's a nice, lightly toasty brown color. So you kind of want it like the perfect marshmallow over a campfire. So I started heating this handle a little bit to get starting to get a little warm up here. But again, you can see that webbing that I was talking about where the oil starts to dry. It's the same thing you'd see on the bottom of like your baking pans inside. That's really hard to scrub off. So the seasoning makes this cookware essentially stick free. So this would probably, once this cools, I will probably do this a couple more times, and then you'd be ready to cook some food and fry some eggs in there. The eggs right now probably wouldn't stick all that much because that is baked on pretty well, and I'm very happy with that. So thank you guys for tuning in, and hope you guys have a great day. And I look forward to doing the next video, and hopefully you guys tune in. If you haven't yet, like the channel, subscribe. It will hopefully help build the channel a little bit more. And I do thank you for your subscriptions and your time for watching. Have a great day.